There are men who die in Night City every night. Some die begging, some die fighting. Most die forgotten, their names erased by neon rain and corporate indifference. Adam Smasher stopped being one of those men decades ago. He stopped being a man at all. Tonight, like every night before it, he completes another contract. The target doesn't matter. The reason doesn't matter. Arasaka pays. Smasher executes. The mathematics are simple. The methodology is simpler. He walks through reinforced barriers like they're paper. He processes human resistance as background noise. When the screaming stops, the job is done. His sensors catalog the carnage with cold precision. 17 hostiles eliminated. 0 damage to primary systems. Ammunition expenditure within acceptable parameters. There is no satisfaction in this. There is no remorse. There is only the next contract, the next target, the next paycheck deposited into accounts he never checks. Smasher doesn't remember what it felt like to be afraid. He doesn't remember what it felt like to hope. Somewhere in the decades of chrome replacements and neural augmentation, those sensations were deleted, optimized away. His handlers tell him this makes him the perfect soldier. They're right. A perfect soldier needs nothing but orders and ammunition. But Arasaka always wants more. Perfection is never enough for corporations that measure success in market dominance and technological supremacy. They want weapons that transcend battlefields. They want power that breaks reality itself. Deep in an Arasaka black site facility, scientists who stopped asking ethical questions years ago activate an experimental system. They call it interdimensional warfare technology. They promise it will revolutionize combat logistics, allow instant deployment across impossible distances, turn the very fabric of space into a tactical advantage. Smasher is chosen for the first live test, not because they value him. Because if something goes wrong, he's durable enough to survive it. And if he doesn't survive, he's replaceable enough that nobody important will mourn. The device powers up. Reality fractures. Smasher's sensors detect anomalous readings. Space-time curvature beyond known physics, energy signatures that violate thermodynamic laws, gravitational distortions that shouldn't exist outside theoretical models. His threat assessment systems scream warnings in binary. Then the world tears open. It's not an explosion. Explosions follow rules. This is reality rejecting itself. The facility fragments into geometric impossibilities. Steel twists into shapes that hurt to perceive. Light bends backward. Sound becomes color. Color becomes screaming. Smasher is pulled into the rift. For the first time in decades, his threat detection systems encounter something they cannot quantify. His targeting computers fail to lock onto anything coherent. His navigational systems report his location as everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. The warp swallows him whole. He tumbles through dimensions that mock physics, through spaces where thought and matter are indistinguishable. Through a realm where emotion bleeds into reality and nightmares walk wearing flesh they stole from dreamers. His sensors detect movement. Something in the infinite darkness notices him. Something that feeds on terror detects a mind without fear. Something that thrives on hope encounters a consciousness stripped of dreams. Something that corrupts souls finds only circuitry and cold purpose. The warp has never encountered anything like Adam Smasher before. And for the first time since he abandoned his humanity for chrome and firepower, Smasher encounters something more hostile than himself. Not more powerful, not more dangerous, but more fundamentally wrong. The warp is hunger given form. It is malice without motive. It is violence that predates meaning itself. His weapon systems activate automatically. Targeting solutions calculate themselves. But there is nothing to target. The darkness shifts. The hunger circles. And somewhere in his hardened combat neural processor, a subroutine he thought had been deleted years ago flickers to life. Not fear. Smasher doesn't do fear anymore. But recognition. Recognition that he has entered a galaxy where his kind of violence is not exceptional. Where his nihilism is not unique. Where what he became by choice, entire species have become by necessity. He has entered Warhammer 40,000. And the Grimdark universe is about to meet the only thing more terrifying than its gods. A man who stopped worshipping anything the day he replaced his heart with hydraulics. The demons come first. They always do. The warp breeds them like maggots in a wound, entities of pure malevolence given form by the collective nightmares of a suffering galaxy. They detect Smasher immediately. Fresh meat, new prey. A consciousness adrift in their domain without protection, without faith, without even the thin comfort of ignorance. They swarm him like sharks detecting blood. Horrors that wear skin like stolen coats. Predators assembled from screaming mouths and grasping claws. Things that were once thoughts given teeth and hunger. They close in, eager to feast, eager to corrupt, eager to drag another soul into eternal torment. But when they touch Smasher's mind, they recoil. There is no soul to corrupt, not in any way they understand. His consciousness is architecture, not essence. Code and combat protocols instead of dreams and desires. His thoughts are tactical assessments delivered in microseconds. His emotions are subroutines that trigger only when operationally relevant. The demons probe deeper, confused. Chaos whispers promises of power. Khorne offers glory in endless slaughter. Slaanesh offers sensation beyond flesh. Tsainch offers knowledge that reshapes reality. Nurgle offers peace in decay. Smasher's response is immediate and universal. He opens fire. His weapon systems paint the warp with violence. Autocannons roar in dimensions where sound shouldn't exist. Missiles detonate in spaces where physics are negotiable. His targeting computer doesn't care that his enemies are metaphysical. It calculates trajectory, processes threat assessment, and executes termination protocols with the same efficiency he used in Night City. Demons dissolve under the barrage. Not because the bullets are special. Not because Smasher possesses faith or holy purpose. But because violence sufficiently applied works even in hell. The warp convulses around him. Entities that have tortured souls for millennia encounter something unprecedented. A mind that cannot be tempted because it wants nothing beyond its next objective. A consciousness that cannot be frightened because it deleted fear to save processing power. A being that cannot be corrupted because there is almost nothing left to corrupt. Khorne's bloodletters charge him, howling for skulls. Smasher dismantles them with industrial efficiency. No rage, no battle cries, just optimal ammunition expenditure and threat elimination. They die confused, cheated of the violence as worship they crave. Slaaneshi demonettes attempt seduction, offering pleasure beyond mortal comprehension. Smasher's threat assessment categorizes them as hostile and terminates engagement before they finish their first whisper. They dissipate, bewildered that their infinite sensation means nothing to something that replaced its nerve endings with tactical sensors. Tanekian horrors weave reality around him, showing him futures and pasts, offering power through knowledge. Smasher ignores them. The future doesn't matter. The past is deleted. Only the mission matters. Only the target matters. They retreat, frustrated by a mind too narrow to manipulate. Nurgle's plague bearers laugh and vomit corruption. But corruption requires something organic to rot. Smasher's body is 96% cybernetic. The remaining 4% is sealed behind hermetic systems designed to survive nuclear fallout. Their diseases find no purchase. Their despair finds no heart to break. The warp, for the first time in its infinite existence, encounters something it cannot digest. Not because Smasher is pure. He's not. He's murdered more people than most plagues. Not because he's faithful. He worships nothing, not because he's strong-willed. He simply has so little will left that there's nothing to break. He is a weapon, only a weapon. And weapons don't dream, weapons don't hope, weapons don't despair. Weapons simply function until they don't. The dark gods notice him now. 4 vast intelligences that have feasted on galaxies' worth of suffering turn their attention to this impossible thing. This creature that walks through their domain like a man walking through rain, annoyed but unbothered. They could crush him, probably, but that would require effort. And more importantly, it would require acknowledging that something exists in their realm that they cannot fundamentally touch. So they do something they rarely do. They let him go, not out of mercy. The Chaos Gods don't do mercy, but out of something more disturbing, curiosity. They want to see what happens when this thing enters the material universe. They want to watch how the Imperium reacts. They want to observe what occurs when pure function collides with religious fervor. The warp spits Atom Smasher out like a body rejecting a transplant. He tumbles through the barrier between dimensions, sensors screaming damage reports, systems recalibrating, threat assessment cycling through possibilities. Below him a planet burns. An atom smasher, the man who sold his soul for steel and never regretted it, prepares to meet a galaxy that sanctifies the very violence he embodies. The Imperium of man is about to learn what real nihilism looks like. The planet is called Primus. It is a forge world, a planet where worship and industry are synonymous, where prayers are chanted in binary and cathedrals are factories that blot out the sky. For 3 centuries, Primus has produced weapons for the Imperium's endless wars. Tanks, ammunition, guns that could level cities. Now it produces only corpses. The Orc Wog hit them from the east, a green tide of savage physics-defying brutality. Chaos followed from the west, heretics and demons united in their hunger to defile what the Imperium holds sacred. The Forge World's defenders fight with desperate faith, but faith alone cannot stop what's coming. Into this war zone, Atom Smasher falls from the sky like a meteor wrapped in malice. He crashes through the roof of a munitions cathedral, his impact crater glowing with residual warp energy. Smoke clears. Dust settles. The defenders converge on the impact site, weapons raised, prayers whispered. What emerges isn't human. Not anymore. Smasher stands 9 feet tall, a walking war crime assembled from chrome and hatred. His body is a masterwork of cybernetic brutality. Missile launchers integrated into his shoulders. Autocannons where arms should be. Optics that glow with predatory red light. He is what happens when humanity decides efficiency matters more than soul. The Imperial Guardsmen see a demon. Their training says demons emerge from warp rifts. Their faith says anything that looks like that must serve chaos. Their fear says open fire immediately. They do. Lasgun fire splashes across Smasher's armor like rain against steel. He doesn't flinch. His threat assessment categorizes them as minimal danger. Acceptable collateral if they interfere with territorial analysis. One guardsman, braver or more foolish than the rest, charges with a chainsword screaming the Emperor's name. Smasher catches him mid-swing, analyzes the weapon. Suboptimal design. Dramatic but inefficient. He crushes the guardsman's skull with casual pressure and discards the body. The others break. Scream prayers to a god-emperor who cannot hear them over the thunder of war. Smasher ignores them. His sensors detect larger threats. Orc war machines advancing from the east. The greenskins have brought everything. Trucks packed with screaming boys. Deaf dreads that shake the earth with each step. A stompa in the distance, a walking apocalypse wrapped in rust and daca. Smasher calculates engagement parameters. Assesses ammunition reserves. Plots optimal firing solutions. Then he walks directly toward the orc lines. The orcs see him coming and do what orcs do best. They charge, howling with joy, eager for a good fight. Doesn't matter what he is. Doesn't matter if he's Yumi or demon or something else. He looks like a fight. That's enough. Smasher opens fire. His autocannons roar, each shot calculated for maximum efficiency. Orcs explode in showers of green flesh and scrap metal. He doesn't spray and pray like the greenskins. Every bullet finds a target. Every missile removes a vehicle. He advances through their lines like a man wading through shallow water, obstacles to be brushed aside, nothing more. A deaf dread charges him, a walking sarcophagus of armor and guns, piloted by an orc who couldn't die properly, so they bolted him inside a machine. It's 8 feet of rage and hydraulics. Smasher is taller. They collide. Metal screams against metal. The deaf dread swings its enormous power claws. Smasher catches one. His servo motors whine under the strain. His combat algorithms calculate structural weak points in the enemy chassis. He rips the deaf dread's arm off, then beats it to death with its own limb. The orcs watching this erupt in approval. Now that's a proper scrap. The biggest fights are always the best fights. They charge him in greater numbers, convinced he's some kind of mega boss they can loot if they kill him. They're wrong. Smasher doesn't fight like an orc. He doesn't fight for glory or fun. He fights like industrial machinery processes raw materials. Methodically, efficiently. Without mercy or joy. Just function. By the time the orc assault breaks, Smasher stands in a crater of green corpses and shattered scrap. His armor is scorched but intact. His ammunition reserves are at 60%. Acceptable losses. Then his sensors detect new threats from the west. Chaos Space Marine. Former loyalists who traded their oaths for dark power. They advance in perfect formation, bolters raised, mutations crawling beneath their corrupted armor. These are not mindless demons. These are transhuman warriors with 10,000 years of combat experience. They see Smasher covered in orc blood and assess him as either ally or fool. He opens fire before they finish analyzing. Bolter rounds detonate against his chassis. These hurt. These are designed to kill things tougher than humans. His armor ablates under sustained fire. Damage reports scroll across his vision. His combat AI adjusts tactics. He charges. Chaos Marines expect fear. They expect hesitation. They expect prey to recognize predators. Smasher gives them none of that. He crashes into their formation like a truck hitting infantry. His fists are pile drivers. His weapons are execution tools. He grabs one Marine by the helmet and crushes it like overripe fruit. The others react with transhuman speed, but Smasher is faster. Not because he's better, because he's optimized. Every movement calculated for efficiency. Every strike aimed at structural weak points his sensors identify in real time. A Chaos champion with a demon blade steps forward, ready to duel this strange opponent. Smasher shoots him in the face. No honor. No, just optimal threat elimination. The remaining Chaos Marines retreat, reporting to their commanders that something unprecedented walks Pham Primus. Something that fights like a space marine but thinks like a machine. Something that cannot be corrupted and will not stop. Behind Imperial lines, tech priests observe through recovered surveillance footage. They watch Smasher fight with horrified fascination. His movement, his efficiency, his complete disregard for the sacred rituals of combat. He is blasphemy and perfection walking hand in hand. And he's only getting started. The Adeptus Mechanicus captures Adam Smasher on the 4th day. Not through combat. Smasher is carved through 3 orc clans and 2 chaos warbands by then. Not through faith. He's ignored every prayer, every imperial sermon, every demand to kneel before the God Emperor. They capture him through curiosity. He walks into their cathedral fortress because his sensors detect advanced technology. Ammunition, repair facilities, resources he needs to continue operations. The tech priests let him enter because they need to understand what he is. When they seal the blast doors behind him, Smasher calculates his chances of fighting through 300 armed Skitarii and 24 Cataphron battle servitors. The math is unfavorable, so he does something unexpected. He waits. Magos Dominus Hexavolt approaches, mechadendrites writhing with barely contained excitement. The Magos has served the Omnissiah for 2 centuries, pursuing holy understanding of the machine. He has never seen anything like Smasher. The interrogation begins. Hexavolt speaks in binary cant, sacred machine language. Smasher's systems auto-translate, but he doesn't respond. The Magos switches to Gothic, the common tongue of the Imperium. Who constructed you? Smasher's reply is monotone, processed through vocoder filters that strip any remaining humanity from his voice. Arasaka Corporation. Multiple facilities. Iterative upgrades over 4 decades. Hexavolt's mechadendrites twitch with confusion. He has never heard of this forge world. This Arasaka. He queries data archives spanning 10,000 years. Nothing. What is your designation? Adam Smasher. The name feels like an artifact from another life. A joke someone made decades ago about how he smashed through obstacles. It stuck because nothing else mattered enough to replace it. Do you serve the Omnissiah? Smasher doesn't understand the question. Or rather, he understands it but has no framework for answering. Service implies devotion. He doesn't do devotion. He does contracts. The tech priests escalate. They connect sensor probes to his chassis, attempting to interface with his systems. What they find horrifies them. No machine spirit. The fundamental animating essence that inhabits all technology that must be appeased with ritual and prayer is absent. Smasher's systems run on pure code. Algorithms without reverence. Function without faith. No connection to the motive force. He draws power from internal reactors, not from the sacred energies blessed by Mars. No sacred Ungin applications. His maintenance is automated, clinical, stripped of the 100 rituals that sanctify repair. He is technology without theology, efficiency without worship. The younger tech priests declare him abomination. Here tech made manifest. Technology that mocks the Omnissiah by existing without acknowledging its creator. He should be dismantled immediately, his components melted down, his existence erased. But Mago's Hexavolt stops them, because Smasher's design is perfect. Every system optimized for combat effectiveness. Every component engineered for maximum efficiency. No wasted space, no decorative elements, just pure functional brutality. It is everything the Mechanicus claims to pursue, stripped of the religious framework they've wrapped around it. He is what Mars would build if it stopped praying and started calculating. The Magos begins detailed analysis, scans Smasher's weapon systems, studies his targeting algorithms, documents his power distribution networks. Every measurement reveals new heresy and new possibility. Smasher allows this. The tech priests aren't hostile. They're useful. They can repair his damage, replenish his ammunition. His cost-benefit analysis says cooperation is optimal, but word spreads beyond the Forge Cathedral. The ecclesiarchy hears about the machine creature that acknowledges no gods. Preachers arrive, demanding Smasher be destroyed as affront to the God Emperor. They scream scripture at him, demand he kneel, threaten him with damnation. Smasher listens to their sermon for exactly 30 seconds, calculates it provides no tactical value, powers down his audio receptors. The priests scream at silence. An inquisitor arrives next. Ordo Xenos, accustomed to judging alien threats. She observes Smasher through armored glass, taking notes, consulting with her retinue. Is he alien? His technology suggests non-imperial origin, but his base form was clearly human once. Is he demon? He emerged from the warp, but shows no signs of corruption. Is he here tech? His existence violates 1,000 sacred principles, but he hasn't actively spread technological heresy. The Inquisitor's conclusion is pragmatic and damning. He is useful, therefore he lives. For now, the Mechanicus works quickly. They cannot replicate his technology, it violates too many sacred principles. But they can study it, learn from it. Some tech priests begin secret projects, attempting to recreate his efficiency without abandoning faith. They fail, because Smasher's efficiency comes from what he abandoned, not what he kept. Mago's Hexavolt presents Smasher with a choice. Serve the Imperium, fight its wars. In exchange, the Mechanicus will maintain his systems, provide ammunition, allow him to continue functioning. Smasher considers this for 0.3 seconds. He accepts, not because he believes in the Imperium, not because he's been converted to their faith, but because combat is what he does. Targets are targets. It doesn't matter if they're called gangers or orcs or heretics. The methodology is identical. Point at enemy. Eliminate enemy. Repeat until ammunition depleted or enemies extinct. The Imperium thinks it has gained a weapon. The Mechanicus thinks it has gained a research subject. Smasher knows he's gained access to a galaxy-scale war zone where his particular skill set will never lack employment. Everyone gets what they want, for now. But deep in the Forge world's data vaults, tech priests whisper in encrypted cant about the terrible question Smasher represents. If faith is not required for perfection, what does that say about 10,000 years of prayer? It is a question that will haunt Mars for decades. And in the darkness between stars, the Chaos gods laugh. The Chaos warbands hear about Smasher within weeks. A machine demon walks Imperial worlds, a creature that emerged from the warp but serves no god. A warrior who kills with surgical precision but feels no rage, no joy, no purpose beyond the act itself. The servants of Khorne hear murder without passion. The disciples of Slaanesh hear violence without artistry. Boring. The cultists of Tisanche hear efficiency without ambition. The followers of Nurgle hear termination without acceptance. Denial of the inevitable. They all agree on one thing. This abomination must die screaming. The first warband that hunts him is led by a Khormade berserker named Scarthax the Red Wake. He is killed for 8,000 years. He is bathed in the blood of saints. He has burned entire worlds just to hear them scream. His armor is crimson with dried gore from 1,000 battles. Scarthax finds Smasher on a battlefield moon designated only by numerical designation. The Imperium and Chaos have been fighting over this worthless rock for 6 months. Neither side remembers why. Smasher is there because the Mechanicus deployed him as area denial asset. His mission parameters are simple. Prevent Chaos from establishing forward operating base. Methodology is left to his discretion. When Scarthax arrives with 30 berserkers howling for skulls, Smasher is fortifying a ridge, using orc corpses as improvised barricades. The berserkers charge uphill. That's what berserkers do. Charge. Kill. Take skulls. Repeat until dead. Tactical consideration is for cowards. Khorne cares not from where the blood flows. Smasher lets them get within optimal firing range, then erases the first wave with calculated precision. Autocannon fire tears through corrupted ceramite. Missiles detonate in clusters, maximizing casualties per shot. His targeting computer paints trajectories that account for berserker-enhanced reflexes and chaos-blessed durability. They die efficiently, clinically, without drama. The survivors reach his position. Chinaxes scream. Demon weapons howl for blood. They expect glorious melee. They expect their prey to feel fear or rage or something. Smasher fights like industrial machinery. His fists are hydraulic pile drivers calibrated to crush power armor. His movements are optimized pathing algorithms. No wasted motion. No flourishes. Just brutal mechanical efficiency. A berserker swings a Chanax at his head. Smasher ducks with microsecond precision, grabs the berserker's arm, calculates torque requirements, and rips it off. Uses the severed limb still holding the Chanax to kill 2 more. Scarthax watches 3 decades of his warband die in 4 minutes. No glory, no worthy combat, just extermination. He charges Smasher personally, demon blade blazing with warp fire, screaming prayers to the blood god. Smasher shoots him. Center mass, 3 rounds. Scarthax's ancient armor, blessed by Khorne himself, cracks. The berserker staggers, confused. How dare this thing not engage in proper combat? Smasher shoots him again. And again, and again, until Scarthax the Red Wake, skull champion of Khorne, dies like any other target. Efficiently, without ceremony. Khorne watches from his throne of brass and bones. For the first time in eons, the blood god feels something new. Not rage. He thrives on rage. Confusion. This Smasher kills prolifically. His body count would make any berserker proud. But there's no passion, no fury. No dedication of blood in Khorne's name. Just murder as maintenance. Violence is vocation. It's like watching someone efficiently process paperwork, except the paperwork screams and bleeds. The next warband is Slaaneshi, Emperor's children led by Lord Licentius the Exquisite. They approach Smasher differently. No crude assault. They offer temptation, sensation beyond flesh, pleasure beyond comprehension, an existence of perfect feeling. Smasher catalogs them as threats and opens fire. They die beautifully, screaming in pleasure and agony, but they still die. Licentius himself attempts close combat, demon whip lashing with reality-bending speed. The whip should strip flesh, should overwhelm nerves, should deliver sensation that breaks mind. It hits chrome and tactical plating. Smasher feels nothing. He grabs the whip. Pull. Licentius stumbles forward. Smasher's fist meets the Chaos Lord's face at 60 kilometers per hour. The Exquisite dies crushed like a can. Slaanesh whispers from the warp. How boring. Tunkian cultists attempt subterfuge next. They manipulate local Imperial forces. Frame Smasher for atrocities. Turn the Imperium against him. Surely this will lead to interesting conflict, delicious scheming, plans within plans. Smasher identifies the cultists through signal analysis. Tracks their communications, locates their ritual site, walks in during their grand summoning. The cultists attempt to explain their elaborate scheme. All the layers, all the manipulation, all the beautiful complexity. Smasher terminates them during their monologue. Tisanch watches 900 years of careful planning end in 30 seconds of gunfire. The architect of fate is forced to acknowledge something disturbing. You cannot scheme against something that doesn't care about anything. Finally, Nurgle's plague-bearer hosts shamble towards Smasher. Death Guard Plague Marines led by Festus the Leak-Lord. They bring contagion that melts ceramite, diseases that turn Space Marines into soup inside their armor, rot that transcends physical form. Smasher's biological components are sealed behind hermetic barriers. His chassis is corrosion-resistant alloy. He walks through their plague clouds without slowing. The Plague Marines attempt to engage in melee. Their bloated forms ooze pestilence with every step. They expect their touch to spread corruption. Smasher's combat protocols don't distinguish between healthy enemies and diseased ones. Both are threats. Both require termination. The methodology is identical. Festus himself, ancient and powerful, attempts to monologue about the beauty of decay, the inevitability of entropy, the peace found in accepting Grandfather Nurgle's embrace. Smasher shoots him mid-sentence. Nurgle, from his garden of rot, feels something unprecedented. Not hurt. He is beyond hurt, but irritation. It's like watching someone refuse to appreciate a carefully prepared meal. All this perfectly aged corruption wasted on someone who sees it as just another obstacle to eliminate. The four Chaos Gods convene as much as entities of pure chaos can convene. They share a rare unanimous conclusion. This Smasher creature is not their enemy in any meaningful sense. He doesn't oppose them ideologically. He simply doesn't acknowledge them at all. He is violence without meaning, murder without message, war without worship. And that, the Dark Gods realize, is more disturbing than any prayer to the corpse emperor. Because at least the Imperium's zealots care enough to hate properly. Smasher just calculates ammunition expenditure. In the Materium, Smasher stands alone on a battlefield of 4 different Chaos warbands, all deceased, wondering why supply drop is delayed. The Space Marines arrive on the 9th week, Iron Hands chapter. Descendants of Ferrus Manus, the Gorgon, a Primarch who valued strength and iron will above all. They have heard reports of a machine creature fighting Imperium battles with unprecedented efficiency. Some tech priests call it breakthrough. Some Inquisitors call it threat. The Iron Hands call it investigation target. Brother Captain Kratos arrives with 2 tactical squads, 20 Space Marines, 40,000 years of combined combat experience across their enhanced lifespans. Each one a transhuman warrior gene-forged to be superior to baseline humanity in every measurable way. They find Smasher completing extermination protocols on a Genestealer infestation. The Xenos are dead. Every single one. Smasher stands in purple-blue Ichor, weapons still hot, scanning for remaining hostiles. Kratos hails him through Vox. Identify yourself. Explain your presence. Justify your existence. Smasher's response is processed through damaged vocoder. Atom Smasher. Contracted asset. Currently eliminating Genestealer organisms per Mechanicus deployment parameters. You are not Adeptus Astartes. You are not Adeptus Mechanicus. You are not sanctioned by any authority we recognize. Kratos' voice is iron-given sound. Stand down for interrogation or be terminated as potential threat. Smasher's threat assessment activates. 20 targets. Enhanced durability. Superior weapons. Tactical spacing suggests professional military training. Probability of successful combat engagement is 3 to 4%. He powers down weapons. Raises arms in universal non-hostile gesture. The Space Marines close in, bolt guns trained on center mass. Kratos approaches personally, scanning Smasher with Auspex devices. What he sees disturbs him. The creature is almost entirely mechanical, more machine than the most augmented tech priest. Yet it moves with purpose, with tactical awareness, with something that resembles intelligence. Where's your chapter? Your legion? Your oath of moment? Smasher doesn't understand the questions. He has no chapter, no legion, no sacred oath sworn before golden thrones. I work for whoever pays. Currently Mechanicus provides ammunition and maintenance. I provide combat capability. Transaction is mutually beneficial. The Iron Hands are silent. This concept is alien to them. They serve the Emperor because service is existence. Purpose is granted by duty. Meaning comes from endless war in humanity's defense. This creature serves for maintenance. Brother Sergeant Manus speaks, his voice heavy with augmentation. You have no cause? No faith? No dedication to anything beyond self-preservation? Correct. Smasher's monotone delivery makes it worse somehow. Self-preservation and operational continuity are primary objectives. Other considerations are secondary. What if Chaos offered better terms? Kratos steps closer, suspicious. Chaos cannot offer better terms. Corruption degrades combat efficiency. Demonic possession introduces unreliable variables. Optimal function requires independence from metaphysical interference. The answer is logical. Completely missing the point. Kratos makes a decision that will haunt him. This thing is useful. Imperium needs useful things. The galaxy is dying. Pragmatism occasionally supersedes ideology. But he needs to know if Smasher is truly combat effective against a starts-level threats. He orders a combat assessment, non-lethal. First to incapacitation wins. 3 iron hands step forward. Each has served for over a century. Each has killed things that would break mortal mind. Smasher calculates odds. 3 versus 1. Enhanced opponents. No lethal force authorized. Probability of victory increases to 47% under non-lethal constraints. He accepts. The fight begins without ceremony. Space Marines don't posture. They engage. They're faster than anything Smasher fought in Night City. Faster than Chaos Marines. Gene-enhanced reflexes backed by decades of combat experience. They move like precision instruments of war. Smasher moves like industrial machinery. The first Marine closes for melee combat knife aimed for joint servos. Smasher blocks with forearm armor screeching against ceramite. Calculates counterstrike. Delivers punch calculated to damage but not kill. The Marine staggers. This machine hits hard enough to rattle Astartes armor. The second Marine opens fire with bolter on training rounds. Solid shot instead of reactive shells. They still hit with enough force to crack concrete. Smasher's armor ablates. Damage reports scroll. He returns fire with his own weapons dialed to non-lethal. Rubber rounds. Blunt impact ammunition. The third Marine flanks, attempting grapple. Space Marines are strong. Gene-enhanced muscles wrapped around reinforced skeletons. This one grabs Smasher's arm, attempting to break the joint. Smasher's servos whine under strain. His power system redirects energy. Hydraulics that can crush Plastiel activate. The Marine's grip breaks first. The fight continues for 3 minutes. Smasher adapts with each exchange. His combat AI learns their patterns. Identifies how they move. Predicts their tactics. By minute 4, he's winning. Not through superior strength. Not through better equipment. Through analysis. Every time they strike, his systems learn. Every time they move, his algorithms adapt. He becomes better at fighting them by fighting them. Brother Captain Kratos calls halt before someone gets seriously injured. The Iron Hands regroup, reassessing. This machine, this thing without faith or purpose, just held its own against Adeptus Astartes in melee. Kratos reaches a conclusion that parts of the Imperium will call heresy. You fight well, machine. You will accompany us. Your combat effectiveness is acceptable. We will deploy you where your particular skills are required. It's not acceptance. It's not respect. But it's acknowledgement. Smasher doesn't care about the distinction. He has new contracts, new targets. The methodology remains unchanged. But as the Iron Hands depart with their new asset, Brother Sergeant Manus speaks quietly to Kratos. He learns, Captain. Every fight makes him more dangerous. What happens when he learns too much? Kratos has no answer, because the disturbing truth is becoming clear. Atom Smasher is not static. He's not a weapon that degrades with use. He's a weapon that improves through application. And in a galaxy of endless war, that makes him either the Imperium's greatest asset or its eventual doom. Possibly both. Inquisitor Covenant makes the determination on day 147. She is Ordo Hereticus, trained to identify corruption within the Imperium itself. She has authorized the execution of planetary governors. She has burned entire hive cities to root out heresy. She does not make decisions lightly. But Atom Smasher has become a problem. Not because he fails. He succeeds brutally. 3 Crusades deployed him as extermination asset. 3 Crusades saw unprecedented efficiency in threat elimination. Orkwogs broken. Chaos warbands eradicated. Tyrannid splinter fleets purged. The problem is what he represents. A weapon without faith. Soldiers who witness him begin asking dangerous questions. If this machine can fight without the Emperor's blessing, why do we pray? If efficiency matters more than devotion, what is faith worth? The ecclesiarchy demands his destruction. He is corruption by example. Heresy through competence. His mere existence questions 10,000 years of imperial theology. The Mechanicus protests. He is invaluable research asset. His technology could revolutionize warfare. Yes, he violates sacred principles, but results matter. The Space Marines are divided. Some chapters call him useful abomination. Others call him just abomination. Inquisitor Covenant weighs all arguments. Then authorizes Exterminatus. Not on Smasher directly. On the system where he currently operates. Covenant is thorough. If you want to ensure something dies, you destroy everything around it so completely that survival becomes mathematically impossible. The system is called Nullus Sextus. 6 planets orbiting a dying star. Smasher is on the 3rd planet, executing anti-insurgency operations against Chaos Cult infestation. He doesn't know 20 warships have entered system orbit. He doesn't know cyclonic torpedoes are armed and targeting. He doesn't know the Inquisition has decided his operational value is exceeded by his ideological threat. The bombardment begins without warning. That's how Exterminatus works. No negotiations, no surrender demands, just absolute eradication. Cyclonic torpedoes detonate an atmosphere. Each one carries enough destructive force to crack continents. The first wave ignites the planet's atmosphere. The second wave penetrates to the mantle. The third ensures nothing survives. Nullus Sextus III becomes a ball of fire visible from neighboring systems. Smasher's sensors detect the bombardments 0.7 seconds before first impact. His threat assessment system delivers conclusion. Evasion impossible. Termination imminent. He does not pray. He does not curse. He does not regret. His last conscious action is diverting all power to structural integrity and entering emergency stasis. Then the planet dies around him. The firestorm consumes cities. Tectonic plates shatter. Oceans boil into steam. The atmosphere is ripped away. Everything that lived, everything that could live, is erased. 3 days later, the Inquisition sends assessment team. They descend in shielded landers, wearing void suits, scanning the lifeless rock for confirmation. They find a crater, 50 kilometers wide, molten glass at the bottom. Radiation levels that would kill unshielded humans in seconds. In the center of the crater, buried under vitrified rock, sensors detect something. A power signature. They excavate for 6 hours. What they find makes the assessment team's blood freeze. Atom Smasher. Buried under megatons of melted planet. Armor scorched black. Entire sections melted. Left arm missing. Optical sensors cracked. Most subsystems offline. But his core reactor is still running. He's not dead. The team leader immediately voxes the Inquisitor. Ma'am, the asset survived. Covenant doesn't believe it. She authorized planetary destruction. Nothing survives Exterminatus. That's the point. That's why it's called the Inquisition's ultimate sanction. Confirm termination, she orders. Shoot it. Burn it. Make absolutely certain. The team tries. Melta charges hot enough to vaporize ceramite. Plasma that burns hotter than stars. Crack missiles designed to crack open fortress gates. Smasher's ruined chassis endures, because Arasaka built him to survive nuclear war. Because Night City's corporate violence required durability beyond military specification. Because every time someone nearly killed him, they rebuilt him tougher. His stasis systems protected his core. His armor, designed to resist everything humanity could throw at each other, held just barely long enough. And his power source, an experimental fusion reactor that violates several thermodynamic laws, keeps running because its engineers never considered shutdown protocols. You can't kill something that refuses to stop functioning. The assessment team attempts to transport him back to warships for containment. His weight crashes their lifter. They requisite heavy excavation equipment. Takes another day. When they finally get Smasher onto the Inquisition vessel, Covenant observes through armored glass. The thing is wrecked, barely operational. Most of its weapons gone. Armor compromised. Any reasonable assessment says it's no longer a threat. But his reactor still runs. His optical sensors, cracked and dim, still track movement. He's waiting. Waiting to be repaired. Waiting to be reactivated. Waiting for someone to give him targets again because that's all he is. All he's ever been. Covenant realizes something that will shape Imperial policy for decades. You cannot kill this thing through conventional means. You can damage it, delay it, bury it under planets. But it doesn't die, because death requires caring enough to give up. And Smasher stopped caring about anything, including his own termination decades ago. She makes a decision that her superiors will call either brilliant or insane. If we cannot destroy him, we contain and redeploy him. But only in situations where his survival is irrelevant because everything else is already doomed. Smasher becomes a weapon of last resort, a thing you deploy when planets are already lost. When conventional forces have failed, when the only question left is how much you can hurt the enemy before everything ends. They transfer him to a Mechanicus black site. Repairs take 3 months. Tech priests rebuild him with mixture of reverence and horror. He returns to operation with 40% more armor plating, redundant systems, improved weapons. He survived Exterminatus. The Imperium cannot comprehend what that means. In 10,000 years of the Inquisition's ultimate sanction, nothing has survived. But Atom Smasher is not nothing. He's worse. He's a reminder that in the grimdark future, even absolute destruction has exceptions. And sometimes those exceptions just wait for repairs and then go back to work. After surviving Exterminatus, the Imperium stops trying to kill Smasher. Instead, they deploy him strategically. Or as strategically as you can deploy something that's essentially a walking war crime with optional targeting parameters. The Mechanicus tracks pattern in his deployment effectiveness. He performs optimally in environments of extreme chaos. War breach sites, demon incursions, places where reality itself is compromised. Most soldiers break in these zones. The warp touches minds, finds fears, exploits weaknesses. Faith helps, willpower helps. But even space marines can falter when demons whisper the right temptations. Smasher has no fears to exploit, no hopes to corrupt. The warp tried already. It found nothing worth the effort. So the Imperium starts sending him directly into hell. The first deliberate demon world deployment is Carthix Prime. The planet fell to chaos 3 centuries ago. Now it's Factory City, where cultists summon greater demons like workers clocking into shifts. The Imperium wants intelligence on chaos operations. Nobody expects the asset to return. They drop Smasher from low orbit in a reinforced pod. He crashes through a temple factory roof, lands in the middle of summoning ritual. Cultists scatter. Demons manifest. A bloodthirster, greater demon of corn, 20 feet of brass and rage and burning hatred, roars challenge. Smasher's threat assessment catalogs it as extremely dangerous. Recommended response is tactical withdrawal and orbital bombardment. He opens fire instead. His weapons hurt it. Not much. Greater demons don't die easily. But his bullets are real, his missiles are material, and violence works on everything if you apply enough. The bloodthirster charges. Reality warps around it. Lesser beings would be driven insane by its mere presence. Smasher tracks its movement, calculates interception trajectory, times his counterstrike. They collide. Demon Claw meets cybernetic fist. Warp energy versus material technology. Supernatural strength versus hydraulic power. The impact crater they create is visible from orbit. Smasher loses this fight. He's not delusional. The bloodthirster is a fragment of a god. He's a man who replaced his mortality with machinery. But he hurts it. His weapons find weak points. His strikes damage its manifestation. His sheer refusal to break or flee or show any emotional response confuses the demon. Khorne's servants feed on rage. Smasher has none. They thrive on worthy combat. Smasher treats this like extermination contract. When the bloodthirster finally smashes him into the ground, Smasher's chassis is ruined. Most combatants would be dead. Most warriors would be broken. His reactors still run. His optical sensors still track the demon as it departs, bored by prey that won't properly fear or rage or die with satisfying drama. Retrieval team finds Smasher 3 days later, barely functional. They expect to recover a corpse. He's transmitting tactical data, demon behavioral patterns, weak points in manifestation structure, optimal engagement strategies. He fought a greater demon and survived long enough to file a combat report. The Mechanicus is horrified and fascinated in equal measure. The combat data is invaluable. No Astartes chapter has recordings this detailed from demon melee combat. Most subjects are too busy dying or going insane. Smasher experienced neither. The Inquisition authorizes more demon world deployments. Each one is suicide mission. Each one, Smasher returns with data and damage. Slaneshi demon princes try to overwhelm him with sensation. He catalogs it as hostile input and filters it. Tanakian lords of change attempt to rewrite his reality. His systems are too simple to hack with metaphysics. Code is code. Reality is reality. No overlap. Nurgle's great unclean ones try to corrupt his chassis with entropy. He's already corroded by decades of violence. Their rot is redundant. By the 20th deployment, something unprecedented happens. Demons start avoiding him, not because he beats them. He doesn't. Not because he banishes them. He can't. But because fighting Smasher is profoundly unsatisfying. He doesn't fear them. He doesn't worship them. He doesn't even hate them properly. He just shoots them until his ammunition runs out or they get bored and leave. For entities that exist on emotional energy, fighting something emotionally void is like eating food with no taste. Technically possible, but utterly pointless. Khorne watches from his brass throne. This Smasher has killed thousands in his name without once dedicating a skull. It's like watching someone use a church as a warehouse. Technically functional, but spiritually offensive. The Blood God makes a decision. He manifests an avatar. Not full power that would crack planets, but enough. A fragment of divine rage given form sent specifically to test this strange creature. The avatar finds Smasher on a battlefield moon. No preamble, no challenge, just divine fury made flesh. They fight for 6 hours. Smasher is outmatched, completely. He's hitting a god with bullets. It should be absurd, but he adapts. His combat AI learns demon movement patterns. His weapons target the avatar's manifestation weak points. His tactics evolve in real time. He still loses. The avatar tears him apart. Literally, rips off limbs, crushes his chassis, leaves him in pieces. But before his systems fail, Smasher's last action is uploading combat data to Mechanicus satellites. Complete analysis of how to fight a Khornate avatar. The avatar stands over the wreckage, waiting for Smasher to beg, to rage, to show something. Smasher's last transmission is damage report and ammunition expenditure log. The avatar returns to the warp confused. Khorne himself is silent for exactly 1 second. In demonic terms, that's an eternity. The Blood God realizes something disturbing. This creature fights gods not because it's brave, not because it's faithful, not because it hopes to win, but because that's the contract. For the first time in eternity, Khorne experiences something new. Respect, not admiration, not approval, but acknowledgement that something exists in the Imperium that treats divine warfare as accounting. Smasher is recovered, repaired, redeployed. The cycle continues. And across chaos, demons begin to whisper a new title. The machine that does not care. It's not a name of fear. It's a name of frustration. Because in a universe where belief shapes reality, where emotion fuels gods, where passion defines existence, Adam Smasher represents something terrifying. Pure function. Empty purpose. Violence without meaning. And that, the dark gods realize, might be more dangerous than any faith. Because you cannot corrupt what does not value anything. Not even itself. 300 deployments later, Adam Smasher has become something the Imperium never intended. Not a hero. Not a champion. Not even a soldier in any traditional sense. He's a solution to problems that cannot be solved any other way. The Imperium stops pretending he's anything else. They deploy him to battle zones where victory is impossible. Where the objective isn't winning but delaying inevitable loss. Where the only metric of success is how much damage you inflict before everything ends. Hive worlds in rebellion where Exterminatus is politically unacceptable but conventional assault would cost millions. Send Smasher. Demon incursions where Space Marine chapters refuse deployment because corruption risk is too high. Send Smasher. Tyrannid splinter fleets where biomass reclamation makes conventional warfare counterproductive. Send Smasher. He becomes a pattern in Imperial strategic databases. A variable in equations calculating acceptable losses. Not an asset to be preserved. A munition to be expended where it generates maximum value. The Mechanicus maintains him because his combat data is invaluable. Every deployment uploads terabytes of information. How demons move, how orcs think, how tyrannids adapt. Smasher doesn't analyze this data. He just records and transmits. He's not a researcher. He's a sensor platform that kills things. The ecclesiarchy gives up trying to destroy him. His existence is heretical, but his function is undeniable. Some priests develop elaborate theological frameworks justifying him. The emperor moves in mysterious ways. Perhaps this soulless machine is divine punishment made manifest. Perhaps he exists to show humanity what awaits those who abandon faith. It's nonsense, but it's comforting nonsense. Better than admitting a weapon without faith serves imperial interests, better than some who pray daily. Space Marine chapters develop mixed doctrines. Some refuse to fight alongside him. Others request him for specific operations. The Iron Hands treat him as acceptable here-tech. The Black Templars try to kill him twice before accepting he won't stay dead. The Death Watch eventually recruits him, not as member, as asset. They deploy him against Xenos threats where tactical flexibility matters less than overwhelming violence. Smasher doesn't care about organizational politics. He accepts deployment orders. He eliminates designated targets. He returns from maintenance. The cycle repeats. He never asks why. He never questions missions. He never wonders if there's meaning beyond the next contract. Because decades ago in Night City, Atom Smasher made a choice. He traded everything that made him human for power, for durability, for relevance in a world that forgot people the moment they stopped being useful. Warhammer 40,000 is that world taken to galactic extremes, and Smasher fits perfectly. Not because he believes in the Imperium, not because he hates chaos, not because he fears Xenos, but because this galaxy provides endless employment for his particular expertise. Clinical. Sometimes Inquisitors wonder what he thinks about during deployments, if he regrets his choices, if he wishes he'd kept more of his humanity, if buried deep in his neural processor some fragment of Adam the man remains. They're disappointed when they access his cognitive logs, tactical assessments, ammunition counts, threat evaluations, target acquisition data. Nothing else. No philosophy, no introspection, no dreams or hopes or fears. Just the immediate operational requirements of staying functional and eliminating targets. He is the perfect weapon, not because he's powerful. The Imperium has weapons that crack planets, not because he's loyal. Loyalty implies choice. Smasher operates on contract, but because he's empty. Empty of doubt, empty of ambition, empty of everything except function. In a galaxy torn between faith and heresy, between order and chaos, between humanity and extinction, Atom Smasher represents a third option. He doesn't fight for the Imperium's survival. He doesn't fight against chaos corruption. He fights because fighting is what he does, what he's always done, what he'll continue doing until his reactor finally fails or someone builds a weapon he can't survive. Across the galaxy, his legend grows in whispers. The machine that does not care. The weapon without soul. The butcher who cannot be corrupted because there is nothing left to corrupt. Chaos fears him not because he's strong, but because he's empty. The Imperium uses him not because he's faithful, but because he's effective. The Mechanicus studies him not because he's sacred, but because he's optimized. An Atom Smasher somewhere in his hardened combat neural processor calculates ammunition expenditure for the next deployment. Because that's all he is. All he chose to be. A man who sold his soul for steel and finally found a galaxy cruel enough to appreciate the transaction. In the grim darkness of the far future there is only war. And in that endless war there is Atom Smasher. Not a hero. Not a villain. Just a weapon that keeps functioning because nobody programmed it to stop. And in Warhammer 40,000 that might be the most terrifying thing of all.